I've been wanting to redecorate this bathroom for quite a while now. It's just gotten kind of antiquated and I'm ready for a change, and it's an easy room to tackle. So naive. I'm sure I'm not alone on this. We have been in this house way too much for the last, I don't know, forever. And I'm starting to get really sick of looking at all the same stuff all the time.
Are you bored? How come you're bored? You're never bored.
So I decided, you know what? I'm gonna change some shit. And I decided to start with this guest bathroom because I figured it only just needs something new on the wall, maybe a fresh coat of paint, maybe a new rug to match everything. Shouldn't take too long. There was a post on the Chick Fix DIY group page from a member named Christy who did this really cool wall hanging out of wood. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. And I've already got a lot of the stuff I would need to do it. So I think that's where I'll start. So Christy, this is all your fault. Up until now, the project is on schedule and on budget. Since I already had all the tools I needed as well as a lot of the supplies, all I had to buy was some wood and brad nails for the nail gun for the wall hanging and some new paint for the walls. But of course it didn't stop there. At that point, I realized that the dark stain on the shelf as well as the dark color of the mirror frame really didn't match anymore. So I was gonna have to do something about that too. So I painted the mirror with just a nice white linen color, and I hung up an old shelf that I had built several years ago out of a tank ammunition crate that I had never hung anywhere. Painting the mirror led me to think about the light fixture, which didn't actually bother me, but the old frosted shades that were on them were kind of just outdated. Luckily though, Lowe's has a selection of shades that fit this size of a fixture right there in the store. So I just found one that I liked and I bought two and popped it in there. Now at some point my husband had said,
You know, that bathroom renovation really should include a new faucet.
the old faucet was pretty beat up and it was even missing a piece. I'm not even sure how that happened, but it really did need to be replaced, and this seemed to be the perfect time to do it. So I found one on Amazon that I liked for about $50 and ordered it. I really didn't have a problem with the pedestal sink that was in here. It's a fairly classic design and I had every intention of leaving it in here. But when I changed out the faucet, I inadvertently jostled it loose from the wall because it was only attached with drywall anchors and a little bit of glue. There's no studs in the wall right there where you need to attach it. Don't you just hate it when there's no studs around? So now what am I supposed to do? I can't just put the drywall anchors back into the same holes. That's never gonna hold. And the wall is way too narrow to move the sink over. And in recounting all of this to my husband, he says,
You could just put a new vanity there. Or, even better, you could just build one and put the sink on top. That would look awesome.
yeah, you're right, babe. That would actually look really awesome. Oh. In wrapping my head around that one, I realized I still had a nice piece of birch left over from a desk I had built that was the perfect size for that. I didn't even have to cut it. So I thought, well, I guess I'm building a vanity. Of course, this meant that I also now had to buy a new sink. So I looked around online and found one for a price that I was comfortable with, placed it on order, and while I waited for it to be delivered, I started working on the vanity. Then, when the sink came in, I realized that the faucet I had previously purchased wasn't tall enough to get over the edge of the sink. And I couldn't return it because I'd already thrown away all the packaging. So of course then I had another dilemma. Do I spend more money and get a whole new faucet? Or do I adjust the design of the vanity to accommodate the faucet so that it will fit over the sink? At this point, I'm about 2 weeks into a project that I thought was going to take me about 3 days. And I'm starting to get a little frustrated. But I figured since I was already neck deep in this project, now would be the perfect time to change out the old ratty baseboards in this bathroom. They were these Pergo laminate baseboards that match the floor as opposed to regular wood. And the laminate had started to peel off in some places and they were pulling away from the walls. And there was no way to fix it. This was the best they were ever gonna look, and I have hated staring at these things for years. So I figured now's the time, better get that done. So add on another day and another 35 bucks or so for baseboards. And caulk, don't ever forget the caulk. But of course it didn't stop there, because once you change the height and the position of the sink relative to the wall, you also have to change the PVC pipes for the drains at the bottom. Now, I did actually think about that ahead of time, but it still took me 3 separate trips to Home Depot to get it just right. What's one more day, right? But I was starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel on this project, and I figured I would just take care of a few more little things that had been nagging at me. Like, for instance, I cut the bolts off of this toilet finally and added some caps. And there was some spots on this floor where I think bleach had gotten dripped and they had turned white, and I touched them up with some stain to make it look a little less obvious at least. That little terracotta sun and moon that was on the wall, I still really like that, so I touched it up with my airbrush with some white paint and hung that up. And then I finally got a new rug, which was one of the few things that was on the original list. When all was said and done, this whole thing cost me a little over $400, which was a lot more than I had intended on spending, but when you see the difference in this bathroom, it really doesn't seem like all that much. I mean, I freaking love this room. I think I'm just gonna hang out in here all the time now.
Hey, Mom. Mom? 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 Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
I need you to help me find my phone.
What's your mother up to?
Hey, did you know that for every positive comment you leave, an internet troll loses their Wi-Fi? It's a win-win!